Good afternoon, I'm Vashan Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The police are investigating whether a 67-year-old woman who was shot dead at her shop in Old Harbour Glade, St. Catherine yesterday was in reprisal for a fatal shooting a week ago involving her son, who is a corporal. She's been identified as Letitia Francis of Angels Drive in the community. It's reported that about 11:47, three men entered Miss Francis's shop. Shortly after, explosions were heard and people reported seeing the men run from the shop. Miss Francis was shot multiple times. She was taken to hospital by residents where she died. Police Federation Chairman Sergeant Petrero says the corporal killed a man after he came under attack in the same community on January 31.
He was off duty when he was attacked by a gunman, and he was forced to defend himself. And that led to this incident, which we strongly believe is associated with the murder of his mother.
A 61-year-old man was yesterday sentenced to life imprisonment at hard labor after he pleaded guilty 2 weeks ago to the murder of a woman in Ocho St. Anne in 2016. He will not be eligible for parole until after 15 years. Norman Thomas, otherwise called Ned, a vendor of James Avenue in Ocho Rios, was sentenced in the St. Anne Circuit Court by Trial Judge Justice Martin Gale. Thomas claimed he had a relationship with 21-year-old Kyra Nelson, an employee of a loan company in Ocho Rios. Thomas then used a knife to stab Nelson 20 times all over her body, according to a post-mortem report tendered in court. In handing down the sentence, Justice Gale took into consideration Thomas's guilty plea, thus earning him a 50% reduction based on sentencing guidelines. He further discounted Thomas's 21 months already served in jail. As the country goes through the dry season, Chairman of the National Water Commission, Senator Aubin Hill, says the Commission is working to upgrade old pipelines as part of a long-term drought mitigation strategy. He was speaking at a press conference at the Jamaica House yesterday.
We have water pipes that are 100 years old, older, 60 years old. The moment you put a little pressure on them, screw all over the place. We're putting new meters in to make sure, first of all, my house, every drop of water I use, the president put in my first. If them run over if them use the pipe to fill the pool and they turn it off, and charge me every penny for it, because it is very accurate. So we're doing those things to make sure we have water, a distribution system that works.
In outlining the short-term strategies to deal with the current dry spell, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, PEARNEL Charles Jr., says 20 catchment tanks are to be fully renovated by March. He says these tanks have a capacity of over 1,000 gallons, which can support a community of 300 people for 30 days once full.
Also, we have targeted critical institutions such as hospitals and schools, and when appropriate, we intend to also visit some of these institutions to highlight the work that has been done in collaborating with them to increase their own storage capacity and efficiency in how they distribute water at their specific institution.
The Met Service has said that at the end of December 2019, 2 parishes were experiencing drought, St. Mary and Portland. Several parishes were also experiencing drier than normal conditions. They are Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Anne, St. Thomas, St. Catherine, and St. James. The Ministry of Health is reporting that there was an increase in the dengue cases in 2019 when compared to 2018. With the addition of new vector control equipment, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is hoping to reduce the figures this year. We have more in this report.
In 2018, there were 1,069 suspected, presumed, or confirmed cases of dengue island-wide. However, a year later, that figure increased by 11.7%, bringing the total number of suspected, presumed, or confirmed dengue cases to 9,159. For January this year, there have been 103 suspected, presumed, or confirmed dengue cases. But between January 1, 2018 and January 31st this year, only 2,325 cases were treated at public health facilities. Out of that figure, there were 85 related deaths, 17 in 2018, 67 in 2019, and 1 in January this year. That means from the 2,325 cases, 3.7% of the patient died, while 96.3% were discharged from hospitals. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is hoping to reduce those figures this year. The Health Minister says with the addition of the new vector control vehicles, he's expecting better results this year.
We are hoping that the additional methods, the consistency of methods, the engaging of the community will see us having better results on the dengue challenge, but we're not going to be complacent, and we're not going to call or conclude on the threat until we're very comfortable that we have it under control.
In the meantime, Dr. Tufton is reiterating the call for citizens to do their part by ridding their communities of solid waste.
Recognize that solid waste and the presence of solid waste is an ongoing, it's a moving target, put it that way. If you don't get rid of it properly, it will pile up again. And that still represents one of the biggest threats in terms of mosquito breeding sites.
KIRK WRIGHT, TVJ News.
In related news, authorities in Clarendon are reporting significant progress in the dengue fight, particularly the reduction in the mosquito population, as well as the number of persons turning up with dengue-like complaints at public health facilities. The Central Parish was among the hardest hit in late 2019 when the mosquito-borne disease spiked in the country.
A significant reduction in the Aedes index for the parish, where we have reduced from a significant high to back in the teens, we're about 17%. So we have been seeing a significant reduction in the Aedes index in the parish. So the program has been going very well so far. Currently we have at least 90 temporary vector workers out there that goes house to house in all the communities as far as possible.
Parish Manager for Clarendon Health Services, Joseph Grant, praised the residents for their cooperation with the vector workers. Now, he says he has noted the attacks on workers in other parishes. However, Clarendon has no such issue.
Protective to the persons. Yes, we will have 1 or 2 persons that may have given some argument, but in general, the reception has been very well, and the program has been doing exceptionally well.
And it's now time for a break, but stay with us. More stories right after these messages. Welcome back, continuing the news now. The open drain in which a 9-year-old boy fell and later drowned in Augustown, St. Andrew has now been covered. Now, there were many calls last year for it to be covered after Kyle Richards was washed away. We have more from TVJ's Prince Moore.
This drain is what led 9-year-old Kyle Richards to his death. It was a September afternoon that Kyle was reportedly walking with a relative and 2 other children in Goldsmith Villa when he fell into the drain and was swept away by the rapidly flowing water. For 4 days, members of the Augustown community searched frantically for him with the hope of finding him alive. But on Sunday morning, September 29, his body was found in a quarrying area in Harbour View. Kyle was a student of the Hope Valley Experimental School in St. Andrew. In October, at Kyle's funeral service, this announcement was made by the Member of Parliament.
The work continues across the constituency to act promptly to clear and clean the gullies. I know that today, this week, in the coming week, we will begin to see some work at the site where Kyle was washed away. It's an open drain that can be covered, at least with a grate, and we have to ensure that we clean it regularly if debris backs up there so that it doesn't overflow. It is not something that is beyond us to do. We just have to be vigilant with it.
Promise made and that promise kept.
I gave my word that I will seek to cover that drain area and ensure that in the future, if we have such a torrential downpour of rain and a child happens to get caught up in it, that they will not get washed away into that gully and have the same fate as Kyle Richards. Sometimes when tragedies happen, we wish we had the foresight to act to prevent them.
In the meantime, she says there's more work to be done in the community as it relates to drains.
There's much work that needs to be done on gullies in St. Andrew Eastern, but I would say across Jamaica in general, we have not spent enough money, successive governments have not spent enough money to ensure that drains are repaired when needed. I mean, the ones that are in my constituency, when I look at them, you can see the floor of them need concrete down there to stop the erosion. The sides need to be strengthened, and I would think that some of them need to be covered.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
The Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, in partnership with the European Union (EU), has engaged in a health center expansion program. The program involves the upgrading and rehabilitation of health centers across the parish of St. James. During the launch yesterday, Managing Director of JSIF, OMAR SWEENEY, said the upgrade is estimated to cost $156 million funded by the EU.
These centers will have the facility to offer dental services that was not present in the community before, right? They will also have the ability to have pharmacies, pharmaceutical access within the communities.
Health centers to benefit are in Adelphi, Flanker, Granville, Barrettown and Bogwalk. Minister of Health, Dr. Christopher Tufton, said the program is in keeping with the ministry's vision to enhance Jamaica's public health infrastructure.
Coming from where we were wandering around as to where we need to go, being reactive as a people, responding to crisis after crisis with no clear roadmap. After 4 years, we have a very clear vision matched with a very clear roadmap. And it is now time for us to implement and to ensure that there is resources to support that roadmap. It has taken some time, but we had to do it, and we had to do it right.
Dr. Tufton added that another $50 million from the International Development Bank, IDB, has been approved for a health system strengthening program to support the prevention and care management of non-communicable diseases. News overseas now. The death of a Chinese doctor who tried to warn about the coronavirus outbreak has sparked an unprecedented level of public anger and grief in China. Lai Wenleng died after contracting the virus while treating patients in Wuhan. Last December, he sent a message to fellow medics warning of a virus he thought looked like SARS, another deadly coronavirus. But he was told by police to stop making false comments and was investigated for spreading rumors. News of his death was met with an intense outpouring of grief on Chinese social media site Weibo. But this quickly turned into anger. There had already been accusations against the government of downplaying the severity of the virus and initially trying to keep it secret. Dr. Lai's death has fueled this further, and it triggered a conversation about the lack of freedom of speech in China. The country's anti-corruption body has now said it will open an investigation into, quote, issues involving Dr. Lai, end quote. Time now for sports. The Jamaica Football Federation is seeking to allay fears that the National Senior Women's Program will be disbanded after the Reggae Girls failed to advance to this summer's Olympic Games. We have more in this report.
Sports reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer, Jonathan Tannenwald, was among those expressing concern on social media platform Twitter that Jamaica's National Senior Women's Program was in danger of being disbanded following the CONCACAF Olympic qualifiers. With no CONCACAF Senior Women's Tournament in 2021, the next international tournament is the 2022 qualifiers for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. That's a long window, but the JFF General Secretary Dalton Wint is insisting that the Federation has a plan to keep the team active.
And so we'll sit, have a discussion. The coaches will make their recommendation. We'll look at as a federation, look at it and see what we can afford.
So you can categorically say that the program is not likely, is not in danger of being disbanded.
There's no way we'll allow this to happen. And I can tell you, remember, we do have a partner in Ambassador Sidena Marley, who have given a huge support to this program, and she would not sit down. And a matter of fact, the president is on record, our president, to say that the women's program will not die.
Interim head coach Hubert Busby also expressed concern about the future of the women's program.
There's no such thing as having a dormant program. Programs need to grow and obviously players need to be evaluated constantly, especially for those who are coming through. That's the only way that you grow your pool. That's the only way you maintain and grow the program to be one of the best in the region. So obviously those are the discussions I believe need to take place, and there needs to be a strategic plan in place for this to happen, and obviously a financial one to make sure that it's supported.
His sentiment was shared by former national women's team coach Charlie Edwards.
Definitely we need friendlies in all the FIFA windows, and also to, in my opinion, have a good relationship with your coaching staff and the players. Try and eliminate all the negativities between now and then, so that you can get the players in a mentally positive frame of mind so that they can give you 100% or more.
If the Reggae Girls go inactive for 18 months, they will be unlisted in the FIFA rankings. An unlisted team has little chance of attracting quality-friendly internationals.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon and have a wonderful weekend.